There's a really fascinating difference between simply knowing yourself and experiencing that deeper state of being that people call awakening. They can sound like the same thing, but the distinction is actually huge, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into. So let's just put it right out there. What really is the difference between having self awareness and being truly awake? That's the big question we're going to tackle. To really get this, we've got to start at the foundation. And it has two sides that are absolutely essential: something called inward awareness and something called outward fidelity. Now, the key thing to remember is that these are not opposites. Think of them as two sides of the same coin, constantly feeding each other in a cycle. So on one hand, you've got inward awareness. That's the internal work, right? It's about being able to see your own thoughts and feelings for what they are without getting all caught up in judging them. And then there's outward fidelity. That's how you actually show up in the world, with integrity. The bottom line, the better you know what's going on inside, the more meaningfully you can act on the outside. All right, so we've got the what down. Now for the really important part, the how. I mean, it's one thing to talk about these ideas, but how do you actually practice them? Let's get into some real, tangible steps. Okay, so for building that inward awareness, you're looking at things like meditation or maybe journaling. And listen, the goal here isn't to magically empty your mind. It's more about developing what our source calls an inner observer. It's like having a part of you that can just sit back and watch the crazy movie of your mind without getting sucked into the drama. That little bit of space is everything. It's where you find the freedom to choose your response. Now, for outward fidelity, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you actually go out and put your inner work to the test. Why is something like seeking feedback so vital? Because, let's be real, we all have blind spots our inner observer can't see. And why is active listening so crucial? Because it's how you build real connection and trust. This is how your personal insights become something real in the world. All right, now that we've got that foundation locked in, we can get to the real heart of it. The massive leap from just being self-aware to what we're calling awakening. And I want to be clear, this isn't just a small step up. It's a total shift in how you see everything. The term we're using here is awakened fidelity, and this is key. It's not about having more awareness, it's about a completely different kind of awareness. It's a wide open state that goes beyond your normal day-to-day thinking, and it completely changes the game in terms of how you see yourself and reality itself. And this chart just lays it all out so clearly. Think about it. Our regular awareness is usually pretty narrow, right? Focused on the next task, tangled up in all that mental chatter. Our sense of I feels very separate from everything else. But with awakened fidelity, it's this huge, expansive view, a bigger field. Thoughts are just noticed from a place of stillness. That feeling of a separate self starts to dissolve, and you get this sense of oneness, clarity, and flow. And the big one at the bottom, this isn't a temporary mood. It's a radical, permanent shift. Okay, I know this stuff can sound a little out there. So it's time for a major reality check. There are a ton of myths and misconceptions floating around about what awakening actually means. So let's bust a few of them. First up is the biggest one of all, this idea that you just flip a switch and poof, all your problems and pain just vanish into a little cloud of bliss. Yeah, the reality is a whole lot more grounded than that. It's a process. Life is still going to happen. Challenges don't magically disappear. The difference is your relationship with them changes. You stop fighting and resisting the pain, which honestly is where most of our suffering comes from anyway. Here's another one I'm sure you've heard. The myth that you're going to turn into some perfect, serene guru who never gets annoyed in traffic or frustrated with their kids ever again. But that's not the goal at all. The real goal is just being authentic. It's about being a whole, real human being, flaws and all. Awakened people are still human. They still feel things, but they're no longer completely run by those feelings. Ah, yes, the famous ego death. So many people think this means your ego just gets completely obliterated, gone for good. And I absolutely love this way of putting it. The ego becomes a shadow in the light. It's still there, but it's not driving the car anymore. It's in the passenger seat, maybe even the back seat. The point isn't to kill it, it's just to stop letting it run the whole show. This one causes a lot of fear for people. This idea that if you go down this path, you have to give up your life, your career, everything you've built, and go live on a mountaintop somewhere. Nope, not at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's about bringing who you really are into the life you already have. Honestly, awakened individuals can be incredibly effective and functional because they're not bogged down by all that internal noise and drama. Okay, and the last myth, this one gets a little trippy. The idea that the world isn't real and that your entire sense of self just gets erased into nothing. It's actually the reverse. People who experience this often say the world suddenly feels more real, more vibrant, more intensely alive than ever before. And it's not that you have no self. You discover a new self, one that finally understands that it's not just a separate wave, it's part of the entire ocean. So, look, if there's one single thing to take away from all this, it has to be this. This entire journey, from awareness all the way to awakening, is not about finding an escape hatch from life. It's about finding a way to dive in deeper and experience it all more fully and more authentically than ever before. And so I'll just leave you with this thought to chew on. If awakening is really just a new way of seeing, what's one thing in your own life that you could choose to see just a little bit differently, starting right now?